Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast. I apologize for those who might be here for the first time and not knowing that I start right at noon. I get the live going a couple of minutes ahead of time so LinkedIn can put the word out and then everybody shows up. Usually I got that little ticker going across the bottom. We're going to dive into doing business with HHS. If you don't know this, all this week I'm going to do 5 different days of training. And so today is the 27th of November. I'm going to do 5 days of training, how to do business with HHS, HUD, NASA, DOE, and DHS. That's what I'm going to cover down this week and be sharing a lot of tips in there. I want to thank those who have already engaged in the chat. I really appreciate it. If you haven't done this already, do me a favor. Let me know if you're in HHS. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Just write in the chat, I'm in HHS or I want to be in HHS. Those two things will really help me understand where you're at. I like to start off training before we get diving into the meat, which I'll do at full speed. I like to share a tip for success. And so my tip for success is related to the post I did this morning, where it was a poll. And I asked, are you a service-based business, construction, or manufacturing? And the reason I asked this poll, and I was trying to gauge what's the people who are connected to me in particular, but in the dynamic small business search and SAM.gov, your profile, your small business profile, can be searched by those 3 fields or those 3 options. So a buyer can come in and say, I'm looking for a construction company that does such and such, or I'm looking for a service-based company. And so I was just curious on whether people even knew about that. Take a minute, go look at your DSBS profile, go down towards the, down just above the keyword area, I think, above the NAICS. You'll see those options and make sure those options are fit the way you want, because they're by default, they're blank. And if somebody is searching for a company like yours and they hit that checkbox, but you haven't filled out that checkbox, then you won't come up in the results. So you want to make sure you say, for example, if you do IT services, that you do services. And in fact, what I say is choose IT or choose services 80%, because you can put a number in there, and R&D 20%. And for everybody, you should put 20% R&D, even if you do construction. Because if somebody says, can you research and develop, can you do R&D project on new airfield road, asphalt or something? It's like, sure, I'll give it a shot kind of thing. You want to be at least up on the results. No one says you have to sell whatever they're buying, but you do want to be found when they're looking for companies like yours. So go ahead and check out your profile. Make sure you're doing that. We're going to be diving in. Thank you, Christy, Josh, for filling that out. One of the problems I have with chat is often I can't see the chat when I'm talking. So I appreciate Devin and Cheryl and others who filled out the chat early on. When you do that, it's letting the LinkedIn push us out further. Okay, so let's dive into today's training. If you haven't been with me before, I move at a fire hose, but in particular, I got a lot to share today, and it's a 30-minute session, so we're going to go really fast. But today we're going to be talking about how to do business with HHS. And I just wanted to start this training off. Each day I'm going to start this training off as it relates to how to do business with an agency. If you're just responding blindly to an RFP that you see in a contract vehicle or in SAM.gov, et cetera, that's not selling. There's nothing wrong with it per se, but it's not selling. It's a reactive approach to doing business with the federal government. You're submitting a quote or you're submitting a proposal, and so you don't know anything about it. Business development and capture is when you start putting a proactive approach to your process, right? You start actually selling. So again, feel free. I sometimes do this myself where I blind bid because I just didn't have time, but it's a perfect fit for me. But that's not the norm, right? That's the exception. The norm should be a proactive approach to business development. And the first part is understanding a target agency. You'll see this in the next slide. But on the 7-step process that I teach for federal revenue success, it begins with research or understanding your target agency better than anybody in that agency. How do you do that? I'll show you some tips today in the training. The second thing is you want to be building strategic relationships with federal buyers and with teammates, in particular with companies that are already successful in HHS. And then the last thing is identifying opportunities, right? Having the relationships is the best way to identify opportunities, but there's other ways you can look at it, and we'll talk about that as well today. In today's training, usually I have these bullets, but frankly, I have 10 things I'm going to walk you through. And so that's a live walkthrough of HHS's information. it's going to be a fire hose worth of information. It's going to be good information. And if you take the time to go back and do what I say or go look at the things I say, you'll get a lot of traction out of this. But we'll do a live walkthrough for HHS. One of the things I'm going to share with you are 10 tips. And so if you want these 10, not 10 tips, but 10 steps. If you want the links to each one of these 10 steps, do me a favor, just put links, please, into the chat, and I'll make sure to get those to you after the training. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. In this slide, if you're looking at it, you can see that I've laid out a 7-step process for success in the federal market. It's really straightforward. It's not Neil's process. It's the process. It's just best practice within government contracting. It begins with research, understanding your customer, and then beginning to pursue them so you have relationships which lead to winning proposals and sales, right? This 7-step process is exactly what I talk about, A to Z. When you follow a process for government contracting, you're going to have repeatable, predictable results. And that's what I want for you. That's why I do this training. Okay, so we're going to use this slide as a stepping off point to everything else I want to show you, but I'm going to cover down on 10 things, and I really only have like 2 minutes per thing. So they're not deep dives. I've done deep dives actually on each one of these 10 in other trainings that I've done. So go look at the 400 trainings I've done in the last 2 years, and you'll find one that explained how to use number 7, the long range acquisition forecast, etc. But today I'm focusing on HHS and diving into it. So let's begin with the org chart. So you want to understand the organizational structure of the agency you're going after. And in particular, HHS gives us a really good org chart. And the thing I like best about it is that it's hyperlinked off to other org charts. I'm not going to go down that path at the moment, but the thing I want you to understand is when you come into HHS, there's 2 main groups of customers, right, that you can think about. On the left-hand side are these major offices within the headquarters area. And so that's one area of any department. And so HHS, these headquartered offices. And coming in here, you begin to look at this left side and decide, well, who can we help? If you do legal services or financial services, acquisition support, et cetera, you can find that kind of activity in here. If you're doing enterprise level IT, you can engage with HHS at a top level. Yes, they do IT at all the lower levels, but that's where the enterprise activity is happening. And then over on the right-hand column, you've got operating divisions, and this is a big deal. It's really important to understand when you look at HHS that they've got, I think it's 12 of these operating divisions. And so some of them should be really familiar to you. Center for Disease and Control, NIH is the National Institute of Medical Health. You got Indian Health Services here, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. I think that's the biggest pool of money in there. What I recommend you do when you come into HHS, right? This is why I say pick one agency, one department to go after. And then inside there, look at these agencies, go, which one can I support the best? And some of the other information I'm going to share with you will begin to help you answer that question. So let's just come back to, so that's the org structure, right? Go in, dig into it. There's a lot of ways to keep going farther and farther down, looking at program offices. The next thing I want you to understand when you're thinking about doing business with HHS is you got to look at their strategic plan. And HHS is the only department or agency that does not make their plan available in a PDF that you can download. So it just sits right here. It's still a good plan. It's just no good for us to be able to download. But coming in here, the reason strategic plans are so vital is because they tell you HHS's way forward. Here's our goals. Here's our objectives. Here's what we're trying to achieve. And you want to come in here and figure out how you can align to it, right? So if you look at the goals right here and you begin to understand what are you doing, advanced strategic management to build trust, transparency, and accountability. Well, if you're doing business office type services, maybe that's a goal you can support. So you want to come in and explore each one of these. If you begin to dig down further, you start looking at some of these things they're trying to do, right? They talk about activities around stakeholder engagement. How are we trying to engage the different stakeholders? There's users of our services, and then there's other agencies, other offices that are doing what we're doing. one of my favorite parts though is major management priorities and challenges. And let me zoom out here. If I come in here and start exploring this, I can look at this and begin to understand what are they running into? Major management challenges is something I'll find in every department. And so when you look at a strategic plan, you're able to dig down further into this. There's another document that goes with this. It's called the annual performance plan. So the annual performance plan looks backwards when the strategic plan is looking forward, if that makes sense. And so here, if we click on this one, this is funny. It's FY 2024 annual performance plan, but the report is for the past year. So if I just come in and start coming down, let me just find the table of contents really quick here. If I start coming in here, I can start seeing the same thing, the way they laid out strategic plan. But what I'm looking for is what did they accomplish? Some of the things they're proud of. And so if I come down here, one of the things I like down here is major management priorities and lower priority projects. And so if I come in here, I can begin to look at some of what they're trying to get done, right? And the reason you want to do this is you want to align it to what you're doing for HHS or what you want to do for HHS. And so these kind of plans are really great to be able to, let me just go back to page 1 here. These are really great to be able to understand the agency. So the strategic plan that we had a minute ago, let me back that guy up as well. So the strategic plan here, the annual performance plan, these annual reports, these lay out, the annual report is what did we do? The performance plan is how are we going to execute on the strategic plans, goals and objectives. But these are documents, strategic documents that you want to find. So 2 and 3 in particular, you want to find these to be able to understand a customer. The reason I say this is important is because when you think about having conversations during business development or during capture and proposal writing, you're really trying to strengthen that idea within your proposal and your response that you get them. You understand HHS or CDC within HHS. You get them and you understand where they're trying to go. When you've read these documents, you begin to align your solution to their needs and their needs that are beyond just what's in the RFP. So these are very, very helpful. Okay, so number 4, spending patterns. I want to go into 4 and 5 in particular about the money that they're doing. So if we look at spending patterns, I could go to FPDS. I'm just going to USA spending, and I just want to start here for a second. If you notice, what I did is went to USA spending, and I'm looking at fiscal year 2023, which was last fiscal year, all contract types. So I don't want to see grants or anything. HHS is the funding agency, so they're the ones providing the money. It isn't always inside of HHS, but for the most part it is. And then most importantly, what I was looking for, because this is generally small business training here, I'm looking for awards they did in 2023. I just want to see the spending pattern. And so again, moving really fast on these slides, this one here in USA spending, I'm able to look at some key things. So the first thing I noticed right away when I come in is there was 24,000 contracts awarded. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways of looking at that, but basically 25,000 contracts awarded, right? When you go in, you want to dig deeper and go, well, what does that really mean, right? And so as I come across, I just want to put it in perspective. Roughly, I'm looking at $11 billion spend towards small businesses at HHS. That's a big deal because me as a small business, I don't need a whole billion, let alone 10 billion, right? I'm be happy if I get a few million. And so you want to look at that and you can break it up. One of the things you can see the spend, right? If I break it by quarters, I can see the fourth quarter is where a big portion of that spend is, but I can also just drive it into the months and look at this, right? In HHS, I can see that in October, they're not really doing a ton of their spending, but interestingly, in December, they had a bigger spend. You know how sometimes people go, oh, the holidays, whatever, in December, there's not going to be a lot of activity. Well, it looks like maybe there was in December. So I would dig down into that and understand it. And then January, it looks like it's kind of starts off slow again as people let the the Christmas and other holidays settle in on them or something. But you can see this pattern that goes on. Another part that I really want to talk to you on the spending, when you look at it, right? You can come into USA spending. I'm looking at HHS's data, and I want to see which one of those subordinate agencies within HHS is spending the most. And so I can see right here, right, Office of the Assistant Secretary, that's at the headquarter level, right? That's a top level office. But then coming down, I'm able to see NIH, CMS, and CDC are the big spenders here. And you can see the amount that they're spending. You get a general idea. If I'm trying to get into HHS and I'm trying to figure out where's the spend, then I would look at NIH. Or I might take a moment and go look at the NAICS codes. I can filter this data more to look at what did they buy and just select 541, 511 as an example to see who's spending on that. I wanted to come in here and show you one other thing. Right here is spending by award agency. I can just come down here and say, well, show me NAICS codes. Same thing. I can see in HHS how much spending is happening and what are they spending it on. This is a very high level description of what are they spending it on. But the first four and a huge portion of what they spend is on professional services, IT services, administrative, et cetera. So that's a big deal. One last thing on the spending data is I can come in here and see who's winning. So these are businesses that are winning, small businesses that are winning, right? So this is a big deal for me to be able to pursue that. And when you're on here, if you haven't seen this, I can just keep going to the next 10 and to the next 10. I'm okay looking at people who are winning 5 million plus and going, those potentially are good HHS teaming partners. Okay, so we're moving fast. I'm on number 4. Number 5 here, I'm looking at the budget. So when I look at number 4 in USA spending, what did you spend money on? Now I want to look at, well, what are they going to spend money on? And so here, if I click on this, I'm able to look at their budget. Their budget is huge, hundreds and hundreds of pages. This is just their summary, right? Each agency, CMS, CDC, NIH, they each have their own books for budgets, right? Their own volumes in here. So you want to begin to look at this and start seeing where the money is. I'm not going to dig too deep on this page, but I do want you to understand that as you start coming down, you can look and start seeing where are their major activities. So let me just come down here really quick. So I can pop in and get summaries for each one of the agencies. I can also come down and begin to see some of their major projects that are in there, right? And here is just a great view to look at when I look at the spending and what they spend money on. It's an important way for me to dive down and go, are they really spending money on what I'm trying to sell or what you're trying to sell? One of the fallacies within government contracting is that the government contracting spends trillions of dollars and that equates to contracting dollars. Well, it does not, right? The government spends 4, 10 trillion, whatever they're spending, right? A ton. But the contracting dollars are more like $700 billion. And then when you look at HHS, you go, well, how much of their budget is actual spend and how much of it is contract dollars? How much is it expected to be small business contract dollars? And you just kind of keep whittling it down. But when you look at the budget, you're able to really figure out how does your company fit in? I had somebody ask me to create a market analysis for them, one of my customers, and what they're looking for is where can we fit into HHS, DHS, and VA with what we sell? How much do they buy? Well, a budget in the agency is a great way to begin to look at what their spend is. It's a document that I use when I want to see how much cyber spend are they doing, how much construction are they planning or new facility development, things like that. Okay, so we're on number 5, and if you're just getting here, I'm moving pretty fast. Don't worry about this. The whole point of this is to teach you where to go and that you can go to a lot of places. You want to spend days doing what I'm doing in 30 minutes. So that was number 5. Something else that I think is a really good one is looking in the agencies for this contingency. I wrote a contingency plan for no budget. They got a fancier way of saying it. But basically, if the budget doesn't get passed or if continuing resolutions happen, what happens to the funding within HHS? This is just a quick stop that I wanted to share with you that you should be looking at, right? You want to come in here and start seeing where the money is spent. Here's a great way. So they have an appropriation of 51,000 staff and they expect to do 37,000 staff off for 42%. Somewhere down below, I saw another one where, let me just see if I can find it easily. Nope. No, I can't find it easily, but that's fine. The idea, you saw it right here, which is good enough. The idea is when they look at their staff, there's a certain percentage they'll have to furlough or not pay, right? Well, this is really important to contractors as well. So you want to look at this document within HHS and understand the services you offer. Is it going to be impacted by the budgeting situation that's happening in Congress? You cannot do a single thing about Congress, but you can do something about planning for yourself, right? You still want to work with HHS, but you just need to have a contingency plan yourself that aligns to HHS's contingency plan if they don't get the funding that they're looking for right away. All right, so number 7, now we're getting into, if we look at the spending of what they spent money on and what they plan on spending money on, well, now we're talking about number 7, what kind of opportunities are they seeing out there? Or for them, they call them requirements, right? So you want to look at the long-range acquisition. In here, you can come in and look at their tool. I might just click on View All as an example. If I come in here, sometimes these tools are a little bit wonky. No big deal. It is what it is. We just get used to using it. So I come in here, and it's hard for me to actually filter on the years because they don't do it in a way I like. But if I type in 24, then I can see, the opportunities that are coming up in the next year. So if I select these dates, these are all 2024 dates. Let me get the last one here. Is that the last one? There's the last one. Even that one, look at that. They made a mistake and put 2024 and then a 7 at the end accidentally. Who cares, right? It's an accident. So I'm looking at that, and if I do, I can see that they've got 1,500 opportunities that are in that phase. And if I come here and I just look for 5415, let me deselect these, 511 and 512, right? Software development. When I do that, now I'm looking at opportunities. Let me just make sure I did that. I'm missing something here. I don't know why it's not actually filtering for me. Yeah, for some reason that's not working. It wasn't filtering. Hold on, let me show you because it worked better, so much better before when I did it. So if I do 541, 511, there you go. So like 18 opportunities. Let's just stick with that and forget the months. I'm able to look at this. The reason I was trying to filter the months is you see 2022. But I'm able to come in here, right? 541, 511, 512, 519. These are NAICS codes for IT services. But I'm able to look in here and go, hey, here's an AI data readiness. I don't know what that is, but that sounds like something I really want. And look at that. It's only $700,000 or less. That is 100% a small business. And frankly, that's a small business at any size. If you're 100% a data and AI expert, you could probably go after this if you wanted and be really competitive in it. But this forecast, for those of you who've been around a while, you know about it, but it's new. HHS has this, and it's great. It's a really good forecast that they try to keep up to date. So going along the lines of a forecast, right, you go into that tool. HHS maintains one tool for everything. And so here's their supplier portal. And in here, I just want to make sure you're tracking on this, right? This is the directory. If you're not in it, you're able to register right there and get yourself in here. You want to make sure that you're in here. And if I went in here, let me see if I can search for a second. So here, if I just said woman-owned small business like this. So here's something I wanted to point out. Right now, there's 2,900 records that say woman-owned small business. And that currently, I think, is still a self-select. But there's 11,000 small or women-owned small businesses in DSBS. And so you want to come over here and do one thing. First is make sure your company's in here, right? Second thing you want to do is to make sure that your profile is a way that's attractive to the buyers. But this is a great one, a very quick tip that just tells you they have their own supplier directory. So when a federal buyer within HHS is looking for a small business like you, they come over here and they search this tool before they go to DSBS, which is the #1 search tool. So if they can find sellers here, there's no reason for them to go anywhere else to do market research. So it's really important for you to get into the supplier portal for HHS. All right, last two points that I want to do. If you're trying to get into HHS, first thing I always look for is focuses or receptivity. These are the small business specialists. These aren't the only way to go talking to HHS, but they're a great start if you haven't done it. So down here, you can just see, here's Shannon Jackson and the rest of the WOSB staff, as well as the small business specialists for each one. So Gwen down there in Georgia, Anita over in CMS, and I think she's also she's also in NIH. These people are out there. They're willing to talk with you. HHS has a way of doing meetings, et cetera, but it doesn't matter. Here's the people's names. This organization right here, just look at Indian Health Services. We've got a customer who reached out to this person, and this person told them about 3 other things that they should be doing, and now they're further in They also support NIH, right? You can see them down here. They help them get further in, but it started with an introduction meeting to the small business specialist. And so you want to track on that. One pro tip that I didn't put on the slides, and I'm actually not going to give it to you in the link either, but you can go look for it. HHS has an employee directory. They have thousands of employees. NIH, it has its own employee directory. You can type somebody's name in there to get their email and phone number. So if you find their name in whatever way and you want to dig a path down further to the program office, you can get that information. HHS does a fantastic job being transparent. And that leads me to the last place that I want to just share with you is on LinkedIn. If you come into LinkedIn, you can see that HHS has a site, right? Has a company page. But the point I wanted to show you was that they got 10,000 employees. If you come here and you say, I want to see, and when they say 10,000 employees, by the way, they have way more than that. That just means 10,000 people who are here on LinkedIn. And so I'm looking at current company, HHS, right here. Look at this, contract specialist. And not to pull one person out, but if you wanted to find Courtney's information, it wouldn't be here. But you could go to that directory online and you could find it. If you're doing, let's just try IT to start. That might not be the best one to do, but here's IT specialist. Here's an executive director, Office of IT Operations. Here's a deputy CIO, right? I don't know if facility people are on here as much. Facility, let's try that, or facilities. But here's, okay, well, so director, Office of Operations Administration for one of the agencies, right? This one's a little different. I think if I type facilities, that might be a little better. Facilities. So what I'm looking for is people who are working on, on the back side. So here, facilities, operation, and maintenance, as an example, I might want to pursue Justin. And my point is, we went through a lot of HHS sites. We went through USA Spending. Now I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm able to find more people. This is really helpful to you as you're trying to build relationships and get in, because relationships are the key. So here's what I want you to remember from today's training. I know it's a fire hose. Just put into the chat, by the way, links, please, if you want me to send those links to make it quicker for you to go do your own research. But here's what I want you to remember. Buyers don't care what you know until they know that you care. And one of the easiest ways to demonstrate that you care is to do your homework, research the agency, learn about that agency and how you can fit, how your company and your solutions and products can align with that agency. When you do that, you're demonstrating that you care. And then remember, success in government contracting, it requires relationships, right? So begin to build relationships out there. Understand the organization and where you want to get into. Then begin to find people's names, numbers, and emails. That's targeting, right? Research targeting. And then pick up the phone and start calling these people. When you do this, you're on the path to building strategic relationships with people who are out there. If you're looking for help accelerating your growth into HHS or any other agency on the federal side, reach out to me and my team. We'd love to be able to talk with you. We tend to work with companies doing $1 million plus because it is an investment to work with us. But go check our site, govconchamber.com, govconchamber.com. Go check it out and you can learn more about how we help people. If you found value in today's training, do me a favor, throw a thank you into the chat. Again, if you want those links, put links, please, into the chat. And for all of us, just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret, it's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.